What happens when a mother's legacy becomes the driving force behind leaving everything safe and familiar to build something extraordinary? When corporate success isn't enough, and the call to serve something greater becomes impossible to ignore. Well, today's guest made of one of the most courageous decisions imaginable, walking away from financial security to chase a vision that would honour the mother's memory and empower women across the globe. I'm Andrew White, and this is Leading Our Own Way, where we dive deep into the stories of those brave enough to forge their own path. Today, I'm joined with the incredible Evelyn Lopez-Delon, whose journey from El Salvador to Australia through corporate corridors to entrepreneurial freedom will challenge everything you think you know about success, purpose, and what it truly means to lead your own way. Here's Evelyn and myself for part one here on Spotify and Apple. In the meantime, please give us a follow before we go any further, and obviously a review with 5 stars seriously, 5 stars will massively help the show. I appreciate everything you're doing for me and this community so far, and enjoy Evelyn's journey. Here's part 1. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. I'm your host, Andrew White, and this is the podcast that unveils captivating narratives of resilience and personal triumph. This podcast is for anyone seeking inspiration and insights on overcoming life's challenges. Follow and subscribe, and then we can lead together forever. Good evening, Evelyn Lopez-Delon. How are you tonight?
I am so excited to be here. How are you, Andy?
I'm great. Even better, we made this finally happen, because for everybody else who's listening, this is the 3rd night we've eventually arranged because of our own personal circumstances. We had to rearrange for a few times, but this is the perfect night. I can tell it. I can sense it.
I know, I'm pinching myself. I'm like, is this actually really happening? Because the first one I was so excited, and my daughter was unwell and she was with me, and I had to, just say, Andy, I'm so sorry. And you saw the aftermath that happened. So yes, that having kids in life just happens.
That's it. And my last time for me, it was my bloody car.
Yes. Oh, wow.
Oh,
so
well.
Pinching ourselves now. It's happening.
It's happening, and it's going to be epic. It's going to be great.
Worth the wait.
Absolutely. And for those who are also recognising and maybe tuning every week, if you recognise the background, I've already filmed on this set with Evelyn's amazing husband, Adam.
Yes, that is true. And I can't believe you had Adam on before me. How rude.
Hey, we met in the line eating food, and we pretty much hugged straight away.
It is true. He did tell me that as well. And he's like, oh my gosh, you have to meet Andy. And crazy story, actually, when he told me about you and he told me about your podcast, I said to him, actually, I had already heard about his podcast, and he was someone that I wanted to talk to tonight. He was on my list of people to reach out to for for a podcast guest. And so I'm like, so I high-fived him. I was like, good on you. Bring me in. So that's how it happened. I
love it. I'm blushing now. That's made me, ooh.
It's true. It's a true story.
Oh, well, if you're not lying, it's awesome. Well, thank you for joining me on Leading Our Own Way. Thanks for joining me on my journey. It means the world to me that people want to join me on my journey in my community. So it's an honour for you to be here. And thank you for being open and vulnerable tonight. It's going to be incredible where we go, and it's going to be a great discussion, and I know you're going to be able to offer a lot to the world and people to take pieces away from you. Thanks for joining me.
Well, thank you so much for having me after so many months trying to get in. I think it's been over 8 months since we met, so excited. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, as you know, the podcast is called Leading Our Own Way, and where I usually begin is I just love starting with a positive vibe, telling the people how the guest is leading their own way. So I guess the floor is over to you. How would you consider that you're leading your own way?
Wow. And how can I even start leading my own way? I think I'd have to start from kind of like the very beginning in a short form, but, try to make it short story long kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I want to start with how did I lead my own way? It started off with, I would say when I was 4 years old, my family, my mum actually decided to migrate to Australia with my family. from El Salvador. So we went from El Salvador to Australia, and she pushed for us to come here to Australia. So she really led the way for us to have this opportunity. I guess from going from a country like El Salvador at that point in time, we were escaping the civil war, and she really pushed the way to, build a better life. And at that point, she was working in corporate, studying. She was barely even being there for the family, right? So there was no presence in, I guess, bringing us up. I was brought up with nannies because she was working really hard, leading her own way. And so she decided to change that and said, no, we have to move to Australia, somewhere different. Don't know what that looks like, but let's just do it. My dad was like, no, you're crazy. She pushed it, and she came to Australia. She brought all of us here, which is just my immediate family. And only 9 months later, I actually lost my mum to breast cancer. So she was only 40 years old, and I was only 4 years old. So not only did I lose my whole family, relatives and everything, but it was, just one of those moments. Yes, thank you so much for showing the photo. That is my mum. And so leading the way really starts with her. She led the way here. And now I am sort of moving on as I approach 40 myself. So she was 40 when she passed away. I was 4. And as I approach 40 myself, which was this year, right? Maybe 2 years ago, I decided I'm approaching 40. It hit me. It was one of those moments where it hit me. I was like, I'm approaching 40, the age that my mom passed away. What did she do? What did she sacrifice? At that point in my life, I was working in corporate, not being happy with the career and the fulfillment as a mum. Things had changed for me. No longer was I feeling fulfilled in my corporate career that I worked so hard for, because I had kids and I had a baby with me. And at that point, she was in and out of hospital for the first 2 years of her life. And as I was approaching 40, I was asking these questions. I was asking myself, what am I doing not being there present for my daughter while she's in and out of hospital, whilst I'm thinking about work, I'm thinking about all of the permissions that I had to ask for, calling in sick all the time and feeling guilty because I was no longer performing. I was no longer that high achiever anymore. And that's when I said to myself, I need to lead my own way. What would my mum do, right? And I knew exactly what my mum did. She sacrificed her whole life and moved countries. So I was like, what does this actually mean for me? I was very blessed to have a husband who is an entrepreneur at heart, and he'd always tell me, let's start our own business. And I used to push back saying, no, I'm happy with my corporate career. I've worked so hard for it. I'm good. 9 to 5 is good. It's cushy. It's cushy. It's fun. I'm loving life, until that moment when I was in and out of hospital with my daughter, and I realized and I was reminded of what really is important here. So I found myself in this profound full circle moment where I had to redefine what success truly meant for me at that point in time. And for me, it was just no longer, about the titles. It was no longer about the salary even. I was getting paid good money, It was no longer about following this conventional path that we all get told to follow. And then I realized, to me, leading the way was actually about building a legacy, right? Building a legacy through presence, through purpose, and the impact that I wanted to leave behind. And not only for myself, but also for my girls, because I knew that life was too short to live on autopilot. And that is where I decided to lead my own way.
Before we get into some of the things that you are doing, because I wrote a quote down today, and I tried to memorize it, and I didn't know it was going to come up, but I want to use it as just my daily language, because I talk about this quite a lot. It's actually in this book, and I wrote it down today. I was reading it at lunch. Sorry, I went away from the mic then. Oh, my son's bloody watch is going off in the background. It'll go off in a second. Change occurs when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. Yes. And that's what happened to me, right? 30 minutes away from being in a potential coma everyone has their own change critical moment, right?
Yes.
And you look in society today, I feel like it's 90%, probably more or thereabouts, of what you've just said. Everyone's living in that fear state of leaving what they're having to do or trained to do or going to school for, and growing up and thinking, I have to do this. I feel that, right? I've left my career. I'm a casual teacher. I'm earning nowhere near the money I probably could do. But then I'll be going back to the daily grind of chronic stress, not interested. And I can feel it sometimes, even off people close in my life. So, when are you going to go back to work? Oh, no. I'm happy. I'm content. I'm not going back to doing what I used to do. So, yeah, I know where you're coming from. It's led into some beautiful things, hasn't it? And you're on a beautiful journey with what you're doing with Adam as well, but other things too. So let's share some of the things that you are doing, because they're amazing. And where would you like to start? Because I feel like there's too many. You've got a podcast. Let's talk about the podcast.
I do. Yes, the podcast is called Legacy Building Mamas.
Yeah.
And how it started, so I have just gone past my 100th episode. So I'm at 102 now, and I've been very consistent. Yeah, thank you so much. And it started off by really going through this journey where I found myself not really ever wanting to be an entrepreneur, but all of a sudden it was the only way. It was the only way to really make something bigger and take that bold move. And I had never known anyone else to do this, right? In my circle of friends, no one had done it. So when I talked to other people, I felt a sense of not judgment as such, but just not an understanding of where we were heading and the big goals that we had. And I often was met with silence. Like, I'd be excited about this and I'd be excited about it, and there'd be like silence. Like no one knew what to say to me, or no one knew how to encourage me. And I'd come home and I'd feel a sense of like, should I really be doing this? Like,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, a sense of like, what am I doing? Like, this is so out of, like, no one else is doing it. So then I decided, what can I do to take that control back? And I was like, well, I need to meet others who have done it. How do I do that? Well, I guess build my own community or start getting into communities. And how do you do that? Well, then I started listening to podcasts, right? Before this, never was into podcasts, right? Adam has always been a podcaster. You should listen to this. You should listen to it. And I'd be one of those like, no, thanks, babe. No, thanks, babe. I'm just going to watch, I was watching Maths at that time, right? Yeah. Married at First Sight. That was me just not wanting any of that. I wanted to just live this normal, comfortable life. Until, obviously I got awakened, like something came through and I was like, no, I've got to change. So what do I need to change? Well, I need to start educating myself. I need to start listening to others who have done it. So I thought to myself, okay, let's look at this podcast thing. I'm going to start listening to others. And all of a sudden I start feeling this inspiration of women who were so powerful doing what they were doing, building communities. And then I started dreaming and I was like, maybe I could be that. Maybe I could be that person that all of a sudden inspires others to do it. It's a flow and effect, right? And so I felt that. And I felt that pull of going, okay, what about if I start this business with my husband and just make it work, and then talk about it and talk the journey through what we're learning, and then teach others to do the same thing and empower others to, because the thing is, I knew I wasn't alone. I knew that when I left my job, or when I was even starting the podcast, I was still in my corporate job, right? So I started that as a side hustle. We started our business. We co-founded SAS Video Marketing at that time. So we were talking about 2.5 years ago. We co-founded SaaS video marketing. We decided to do a video marketing. And there's a lot of background as to how we even got to that point. But we started that as a side hustle, and I decided to do the Legacy Building Mamas podcast as a side hustle. So what that meant for me was waking up at 5 a.m. and interviewing people before I would even go to my corporate job.
Wow. In the morning?
In the morning, yeah.
Oh.
And sometimes at night, right? So I'd go to my corporate job. I only had one day off, so I'd have the Wednesdays off, but I had babies, right? At that point, I had, Alyssa was just born, right? So I started SaaS video marketing while I was on maternity leave. So I went back to work when Alyssa was 9 months old and Jasmine was 2 and a bit, right? So they're 22 months apart. And so I had toddlers as well on top of that. But I just knew that I had to do this not only for myself, but for other people. And going on this podcast journey, I started to, host and interview amazing guests who have done that, right? And I'm learning from them. It's not even just about the audience. It's about what am I taking away from conversations? You would know, right, Andy? You have
like little diary.
Yeah, you have really great conversations with people and you learn from others.
Absolutely, yeah.
You take notes down and you're like, okay, great, I'm going to learn from this. And that's how I started to upskill myself, not only from the guests, but also teaching what we were learning and also paying it forward to other women who are on this journey, who feel alone, who feel like no one else gets them. And that's how I started my community through that.
Because you also created the platform, is it called Her Digital Freedom Academy? It's a membership based as well?
Exactly, yes. So now this year I created a Her Digital Freedom Academy where everything that I've learned through video marketing, and now we've pivoted from video marketing to email marketing. And so now we've built and pivoted to Sales Command. So Sales Command is an AI automated what we do is it's all marketing, right? We essentially take the ideal customer personas, we get that from our clients, we understand and we do the research behind our ideal customer profiles, and then we put that into an AI automation system, then that does the messaging. So there's a psychology behind messaging and AI. So I looked at that going, this is all marketing, and I'm learning so much from my husband, Adam, who is all sales and marketing. How do I then take the learnings of what we're doing and teaching it to women who I've seen so many women in my community who have started their businesses, but then get stuck because they don't know how to sell.
Yeah.
Sales and marketing is the biggest pain point that I see in my community. So I didn't start my community knowing what it was that I wanted to teach. I started my community by just connecting, right? Everyone wants to start a business. So I started to talk about their business, what it is that they were. And then I started to realize the pain points were confidence on video. And I created video marketing, right? Confidence on showing up on video and camera, but also how to sell. Because you can have an amazing product and you could be a coach, right? But there's so many coaches out there. How do you become so memorable to someone else? And how do you sell the transformation that you have? And only you have that because you've got your lived experience. You have, obviously your transformation that you experienced yourself. How do you then take that and then sell from the heart, right? Sell from the heart. So then I started to do a lot of, market research, understanding, connecting. There was a lot of market research that I did behind the scenes. And then I built the Her Digital Freedom Academy. By that point, I had already built a bit of my personal brand through my community, through my podcast, and I launched it without having anything on it. I launched it to my community saying, this is my mission. This is my vision. My mission is to help women in business to step up and sell with confidence, either on video, either in messaging. And I'm building out this platform to help women come together and create this community. I need 10 women to join, and it would be as founding members. It's only $47 per month. And this is what you get, right, out of it. You get me, you get 2 coaching calls a month. And as I'm building it out, I'm building it real time for you, right? Whatever you need, I've implemented it before. I've got the tools, I've got the workflows. 10 women said yes before I even launched. And I was like, great. And they kept me going because I had these 10 women that I was showing up for. Every single time I was building this content, asking them, did that kind of fit in? So for 6 months, I built this platform where there's academy on different stages. So stage 1 is all about the foundational work, which is the mindset, overcoming limiting beliefs, vision boarding, all that sort of stuff. Stage 2 is online marketing, which is video confidence, email marketing. And I created my own framework called the Speak to Be Seen framework. And
Love that.
Yes, Speak to Be Seen is something that I use to build my personal brand, which worked, right? And that is story. So S stands for story. So telling your story, journey, and how that transformation then comes to other people as well. So the transformation that you're experiencing, how do you tell that story that resonates with someone else? P is present with purpose. So you're presenting your offer with purpose. So removing that salesy mindset of, oh, I'm selling, oh, I don't want to sell to anyone. No, you're actually presenting with purpose. You're presenting your offer because you're offering a transformation and just changing that way of thinking that I'm actually not selling, I'm actually doing I'm giving something to someone that they need, and they need that transformation. So changing that sort of way of thinking. Yeah. E stands for energy. So it's your energy. Oh no, sorry. E is expressing through energy. So you're expressing through energy. Who are you? What are you about? And being sure that your energy also attracts. And I've had people say this to me before, that they joined my membership because of my energy, because of my opinions, because of my values. They bought into that. So people buy into your energy.
They really do.
Yeah, right?
I agree completely.
And what you're about, like, energy is about like who you are as a person, your values, your opinions. People want to know who you are. People buy into that.
And it's one step closer to being connected to people too.
Yes.
I'm all about connection, and I always say to people, I have a lot of young teachers who I speak to on a regular basis, and I end up giving them the advice whether they want it or not.
Yes.
But I always say to them, and a few, actually I had a teacher on 2 weeks ago, and he said he always remembered my first piece of advice. He shared it in the episode, what that advice is, I always say to people, don't be a teacher. And obviously you can convert that to being a leader or whatever framework or whatever industry you're in. And I said, don't be a teacher, be yourself.
Yes.
Because when you want to connect with these teachers, these kids, and actually teach them, they'll relate to you being you. They won't relate to you coming in trying to be a teacher. And he's used that, and it made me feel amazing that he remembered that, because you just walk off expecting them not to really remember it, and it's a brush off comment, but it was powerful for him, and it was powerful for me hearing it, and I've always said it, and I don't know, I've never stepped away from. I always used to try and model my own behavior based on what I went through with workplace bullying, toxic work environments, try to change to match that individual, this individual. And I'm like, no, I'm done. It caused me chronic stress.
Yep.
I'm just being myself, and I know the power in myself and my purpose and my why and all of that.
Yeah.
And so now I go, you know what? I know I'm pure. I know I'm a good person. So if you take something the wrong way or you don't like my personality, then we're just not meant to be around each other, and that's okay too.
Oh my gosh, I love that you said that. That is exactly it. That is exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to expressing through energy, because that's marketing as well, right? Yeah. Like, you get taught how to market yourself. Like, who knows how many other coaches out there, which I've heard as well, do this, use this template, use this. No, yeah. I teach, like, speak to be seen, speak to be yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to be yourself and show that through camera. But, obviously that takes also work, just really, and it comes down to, like you said, what is your purpose? Like, the foundational work. And that's why I've sort of structured this academy from stage 1. Who are you? What is your purpose? What is your why? Because then that translates to your marketing. So when you're going out there and being and trying to sell, being yourself, when you start to already figure this out, your why, your purpose, the you, what do you bring into, what are your values, then marketing becomes more you and authentic.
Yeah, absolutely. And you go back to my book, How to Lead with Purpose. If I knew what I know now, I wouldn't have written that. I'd have written How to Live with Purpose as a prequel to How to Lead with Purpose, because you can't lead with purpose if you're not actually living with purpose in the first place.
Yes.
And I think that's where most leaders, not to their fault, sometimes it's the people above them who are not helping them learn to be a good leader, but they're also not living with purpose. So even if they are trained as a good leader, if they don't live actually getting up with some form of purpose, they're probably going to work and doing some shit jobs. You know what I mean?
That is so true. Yes, because you have to live with purpose to lead with purpose, right?
Simple.
Yeah.
It's very logical when you think about it.
Yeah.
And I've with my acronym of LOOW, Leading Our Own Way, I've kind of developed some form of contents to a program as well. And I don't consider myself a coach, but I love learning about the brain and human physiology, cellular level things. But I with the program, I've done Ella's. I mean, you can tell me if this is good or not, but I've done the contents, but I've not written the contents, if that makes sense. But L is for learn and let go. So understanding your past and moving past it, whatever you've been through, let go of all that.
Yeah.
Right? And I'll go deep into the science of the brain and all of that, blah, blah, blah. The first O is overcome and let go. Overcome and work, sorry, because once you've overcome it, you still have to work.
Yes.
Right? You still have to get up every morning with purpose, and whether it's a morning routine or whatever we go through, overcome and work through it. And then the second O is walk your own way. So connecting back to the podcast. And then, own your own story. And the W is walk your own way.
Love that.
Yeah.
That
so,
is...
and that walk your own way is kind of what you've just said. It's the marketing side that you present every day, and you'll do it your way. As long as you're doing it with purpose, as long as you're doing it with your own flavour, people will see if it's fake or not. If you're doing you for being you, they will fall in love with you. And if they're not wanting to be there, then so be it.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the thing. And it is about, being yourself, which is sometimes scary when it comes to marketing, because you don't want to push people away. It's like, what is that person going to think? And, it's also that mindset of going, that's okay. They're not my audience. So it doesn't matter anyway. Just focus on who you're here to serve and focus on your ideal customer. When that is clear, and that's why I also teach that, that's one of the most fundamental things. It's identifying and being clear on who you're speaking to. Because once you're clear on who you're speaking to, then the speak framework comes into play, right? And then you become your own way of selling to that person that you need to transform, right? That you're transforming someone's lives, but you need to really be clear on who that is, and who cares about anyone else. Because when you stop caring about that other person that's not your ideal customer, then your message becomes clear, and it becomes evident that you are the person that person then needs to contact and say, I need you, and I need your guidance, and what are the next steps, kind of thing. Yeah. And so that comes from, I guess, the speak framework. So again, it's telling the story because people resonate with the story, people resonate with, and it becomes more memorable, right? But not only that, when it comes to story, it's not even about, because this is the thing about marketing, right? You think, I have this thing, you need that, I'm going to offer that to you. Here's my offer, right? You're like, you start leading with the modules that you have. Like, I might easily go, in her digital freedom, you've got stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. No one's going to resonate with that, right? Everyone's going to sort of like scroll past and go, oh, her digital freedom, yeah, great that you've got stage 1, stage 2. No one really cares. Yeah. What they care about is the transformation. It's when I tell my story about the reason why I left corporate, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now, and then the reason why. So when I've told my story about the hospital and no longer being a 9 to 5 and all that sort of stuff, women have resonated with that story, and they've reached out to me saying, hey, I resonate with that story. I'm not even a mum, right? Some of them aren't even mums, but they resonate with the fact that they cannot do 9 to 5 anymore, because women also go through a lot of stuff that's, obviously perimenopause, menopause, or whatever it is, that they can know they're fatigued in the mornings. They can no longer make it to a 9 o'clock. Like, so they're like, what else can I do now? So I want to know more about what it is that you did. How did you do it? How did you do that? Because it's transformation, right? Like, I went from not ever wanting to be an entrepreneur, which is also a lot of women resonate with that. No one wants to be an entrepreneur, but also no one wants to work 9 to 5 for the rest of their lives. So,
or they do want to be an entrepreneur, but they're scared and don't know how to.
Or that, or that. But then that story sort of resonates. Well, if she can do it, how did you do it? And then so they come to reach out to me. But if I start with the story, then people are like, it becomes memorable, right?
It's a hook as well, isn't it?
It's a hook, right? Yeah, as opposed to going, her digital freedom, stage 1, stage 2, like, no one cares about that, right? So then you start with the story, then you present with purpose when it comes to the right timing, like you offer, your purpose and all that sort of stuff. And it usually sort of also leads to like, just message me or DM me. Let's start have a conversation. Like I try not to even go, here's my landing page, here's my sales and opt in right now. It's more about, let's have a conversation. Let's get them on a call. Is this right for you? Is it not right for you? Because I also want to make sure that this is the right space for you. I don't want you to buy into something that, you may not feel right? So you're presenting with purpose. You're not being pushy. You're not being salesy. You're actually just offering what you think that they need. But if it's not, then that's cool too, then you go into the E, the energy, the opinions and all that sort of stuff. But then you go into the A, which is something that, I hadn't touched on before, aligning with your audience and educating them. So when you align with your audience and you start to educate them, so some people may not even get to that point. Right, your story's great, they're still not there yet. Then they get to your education, you're providing free value. And then they're like, wow, this really hits now, this resonates. So when I provide free value, I actually repurpose the content that I have already in her Digital Freedom Academy. I've repurposed the content that I've got in there and I give snippets away for free, right? In my content, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna educate you on what to do and what not to do. So don't start with your offers, start with the heart, what is it? So I start to give little snippets of what it is that they can get out of this membership. And if then they start to recognize the value that I bring, right? So then they start to then align with that. And then K, so this is the last part of the Speak framework. K is keep showing up. Because when you're consistent, then that builds trust. That then if you're consistently showing up and you're not selling every single time, right? Because some people also just show up when they're selling and then you can see that, right?
It's obvious, yeah.
It's so obvious.
You don't answer the phone anymore, do you?
Yeah, it's so obvious when people do that. No, but if you keep showing up, it's those little snippets that they see and then they start to trust you. And then so that's how you build trust, that's how you build authority, and that's how you build your community that then buy into your offers. And that is what I teach in her Digital Freedom Academy. And so since then, so I did 6 months with my first 10 cohort, and then I sort of saw what the transformation was, and I sort of started to sell the transformation. Then I started talking more about it, but then I went to selling one-to-one to one-to-many. So I started doing workshops. Long story short, I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, I'm doing workshops now. I'm doing an in-person event coming up actually for the very first time. And that's where it's at. So I've had 6 women join the membership in the past 5 weeks. And so now I've got 15 women in my membership. Yeah.
Love that. And by the way, before when we were talking about the podcast, I love the way you say podcast. I can't do that.
Podcast.
It's that beginning podcast. Can't do it. You didn't do it then. You've been doing it. It's in my head.
Latino.
Yeah. I think it's brilliant. So, and obviously working with Adam in Sales Command as well.
Yes.
That's going well. I know we will talk later in the episode around that messy middle of going from corporate and going through some of the difficulties around the time you had your children, along with COVID and some of those things as well. But with Sales Command, are you a co-founder with Adam?
Yes. So when we pivoted to Sales Command, there was actually a massive moment, I must be completely honest, where I felt so pulled between me building this membership out and pivoting to Sales Command, because Sales Command was a big business that we were building, and Adam couldn't do it all by himself. So he was fair enough asking me, can you just be part of this right now, and can you, can we just talk about it? And so he'd sit me down, talk about this, but then my mind was also elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was getting pulled in 1,000 directions because I wanted to help him with Sales Command. I know this is going to be a big business, and I know that we can make this work, but my purpose and my passion is helping women. And so I just wanted, I guess, Sales Command to be something that I'd be on strategically, from a strategic level, making decisions and but I didn't want to be doing the doing, because that meant then potentially that I would have to then pause the Her Digital Freedom Academy, which I had something really good going, and I had 10 women who had said yes. And if it wasn't for, and I'm so grateful for the women that did say yes, because I pushed through and I was like, I just need to be better with my time, right? It's just time block. I can do this, and I don't want to let go of the women that have already said yes to me. It's just been okay with that season of life, and that was okay for me to go, Her Digital Freedom is just going to have to wait a little bit. And that's why I took my time with it. And it's still not built out. Like, there's so many things that I need to still do. It's still there, but I'm building it out in my own way and in my own time, and being open with the women in there going, hey, I've got Sales Command going on at this point in time. Just being honest, communicating. And that's one thing that I did learn in my corporate world. It's okay as long as you're communicating back to the expectations that they might have, and being open and I guess trustworthy in the fact that I'm like, I've still got Sales Command that I need to sort of snud out, and there's all these things that we need to do. Just bear with me for a bit while I build this out. And they were fine with that. Do you know what I mean? So then we built that out, and there was times where we had really difficult decisions to make. We went through a really tough time, I'd say, for a good 4 months, because we were trying to find that partner, because Adam he's the ideas man. But when it comes to execution, and when it comes to a business that's also very technical and out of our comfort zone. So I'm in HR, right? It's not like I've ever done email marketing, AI automation. It's out of our depth, right? We had to say yes and figure it out. Like that was the thing. It's like we found the gap. We found what businesses need. And when you find that gap, that's where it's at, right? The next step is figuring it out and just saying, yes, we can do this, and then figuring it out later. So that's where Adam and I were at. We were like, okay, we identified this gap. Adam was talking to clients saying, yes, that we need this. And they'll be like, yeah, great. All of a sudden we had 4 clients, and we're like, okay, now what do we do? Now we have to figure it out. Now we have to figure out the team and, who can do what. So Adam was learning a lot, and I was learning by just watching him. And then all I was thinking was, this is going to be great for my, for the women that I'm going to be teaching. So I'm just gathering all this stuff. Yes, just soaking it in and upskilling myself, going, this is something that other women need when it comes to messaging. So I took that as an opportunity to go, this actually goes hand in hand. And Adam and I spoke about it so many times, where I'm like, because when it comes to passion and what your true calling is, it was that Her Digital Freedom. It wasn't Sales Command. That's Adam's, right? But yet we just had to find that middle ground where I'm like, but this can actually be something big for my purpose. So I had to be open to learning, which was really uncomfortable as well, and learning to being okay with being pulled in different directions. And just time management was one thing that I really had to be good with. And we found someone maybe a month ago now, a co-founder who is absolutely amazing. And he's come in as a technical co-founder. So we're okay with giving, 50, like 40, 49, 51%, because he can scale our business. We can scale it to a bigger, and that means that I can then and he's so very much aware, and he supports me in my purpose, because we found someone that's very values aligned. So when we found him, and we had gone through 2 other people beforehand, so there was just like this massive, that's another story in itself. But we had already gone through different people that just weren't right for the business, and then we found him, and I was like, okay, I feel like this is going to work now. I can now sort of step out and do her digital freedom. And then that's where also the signups came up, because it also comes down to energy, right? When your energy is pulled in all different directions, I couldn't bring any more women into the membership.
Yeah.
And at one point that got me really upset, because I was like, oh, what am I doing wrong? Is it my messaging? But no, it's just the energy that I had. I'm like, okay, when this happens, then that can happen. And as soon as that co-founder came, and then he was able to be there for Adam as the person to go to, I was able to put all my energy into her digital freedom. That's where I got 6 women say yes.
So it's weird how 6 came out of the blue.
Yeah. Within that same time frame as well. Like,
so there you go. There's more proof, right, within yourself.
Yeah.
And it's so right, because, you know, when I'm translating it back to this podcast, if I went back to full-time teaching where I'd have to do everything else, I wouldn't be home till 6 o'clock. My energy wouldn't be on this, even if it wanted to be, which in itself would result in stress and lack of purpose. And that's when the family dynamics would die down and all of that. And you just, it unravels, doesn't it? And so it was a good decision bringing in that person so you could actually fulfill your own needs as well, right? Yeah. And it will thrive. It will clearly thrive. With that in mind, before I do want to go back to your original purpose, I've got a question that I do want to ask and I don't want to forget. But before I go there, with going back to your podcast, is there any examples of scenarios, obviously without giving names away, where you might have, or even with the course, just a highlight moment, something that's memorable and it gives you tingles that you could share with us maybe?
With the podcast, oh my gosh, there's so many moments, I would say. There's 2 folds to this. One, my own personal learnings, right? The tingles that I've gotten and the moments that I remember is when I first started my podcast, when things get really hard, when you're in business and you're thinking to yourself, what am I doing? There are 2 women in particular that I actually interviewed initially when I first started out, and they're 15 years ahead, right? They got it all together. Both of them said to me, the reason why I've made it, the reason why I'm successful, the reason why I've done what I've done is because I kept showing up, even when things got hard. That gave me the tingles, right? Because I was like, wow. And both of them, one of them in particular said, it took her 3 years of not watching TV, right? So she didn't watch TV. She was just constantly working so long in terms of just trying to figure it out. And that's where Adam and I are at. Let's be honest, we don't watch TV. Well, our whole lives, I used to watch maths, right? Right?
What's
I used
maths
to love.
now?
Yeah, I used to love math. That's the shit that I used to care about.
You're consumed, right? You're consumed by something else.
I consumed it. And now all I want to do is just learn. I'm here to, any moment that I can, I'm learning, I'm upskilling myself, and I've got a different type of purpose. And so when she said that, 3 years it took me, and now, she's now, 10 years in, now I get to watch Survivor with my girls, and they're, teenagers now, and she started at the same point where I started. She started on when she was on maternity leave. Now her kids are teenagers. So that gave me that light at the end of the tunnel going, we are working. And sometimes I do get to that point where I'm like, Adam, what are we doing? Sometimes I do want to just sit down and just watch maths, right? Sometimes there are moments, I'm not going to lie, there's going to be moments where you do that. But then I go back to the moment where she said that, and I was like, okay, we've got another year to go, maybe another year. Maybe if we just keep working and just getting our systems right and all that sort of stuff, that's going to come. right? It's going to come later. And then another one also said that for the first 5 years were the really difficult ones. And at one point, she even got herself into like a 60K debt, right?
Cool.
Because, yeah, tax and all that sort of stuff. But she still pushed past that. And she's like, if anything, get your taxes right and, you know, the finances sort of sorted. So those are the moments that I remember at the start that really gave me the tingles, that I was like, and when it gets hard, I go back to those two stories going, you know, success doesn't come overnight and it doesn't come easy. And what we're doing is okay as long as, like, you know, in the next 12 months, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? So that keeps me going.
Yeah, beautiful. That gave me tingles because I need to hear that, even regarding to building this platform and this community. You know, sometimes I doubt myself, sometimes my head goes down, and I question that same question you said: why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? I'm not what I'm doing for. I know why I'm doing it, but you question it, don't you, slightly? But that, you're right, showing back up, which I've not dropped yet.
Yes.
It does pay off, and you can see the increments. Like, even when I look online at stats and data, and even just the way I feel and the response from guests and the people that they've contacted my guests, and they feed that, but it warms me and it makes me keep going. And just the other day, actually yesterday, with Instagram, I'm not a social media person. I have to content create, but I'm not a content creator, because I have to market, right? And I don't really have spare money to publish this further. Everything's organic, but it's reached 1.1 million, so I'm pretty happy.
Wow, that is incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you. Views. Oh, it's not followers, just views on a couple of reels that are promoting, and it's reached 1.1 million. It just warmed me up. Again, I'm not doing it for pleasure hits, but it just reaffirms that I'm doing something okay. Let's just keep going, you know? You
just got to keep going. And that's the thing, like, you know, just keep showing up, because sometimes, and this is a quote that one of them actually said, entrepreneurs will live a few years of their life like no one else will, right? So that they can live the rest of their lives like no one else can.
Yeah.
Right? And that's one thing that I live by, because of the women that I, you know, also interviewed, because it is that, like, nothing comes overnight, and you just got to keep showing up. As long as you enjoy it, as long as you're doing it because you get something out of it. And sure, not every day you're going to want to show up, because we're all human, and we're all going to have our days where we don't want to show up. But knowing that end purpose and why you're doing it will keep you going, and you just never know who you're going to meet and where this is going to lead you. So just keep showing up, and keep doing what you're doing, because you're doing something right, Andy.
Ditto. Yeah. Ditto. Back to you though. So with your purpose and the recent the communities that you've built over the last few years, and along with Sales Command, but obviously that's giving you now some freedom to go back to really what you want to do on a daily basis. Does your purpose of helping women really come back from that time where, because I remember you saying, particularly from the pre-chat, I think we spent a bit of time on it, where you said your mum really wasn't present. Not that she didn't want to be, but just wasn't present because she was just too busy working and trying to survive. And is that really where the depth comes from?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, very good question. And I think that is, and it took me a while to realize this, and I think this is the beauty about going into entrepreneurship. You really do go into the why, the purpose behind what you're doing. And the more you talk about your story, the more you share, the more insight you get into the real why. So I only figured this out probably, and I did the Speakers Institute boot camp in Feb, right? So we're talking about, I don't know, 7 months ago, right? And in that, a lot came out of that, and it was a beautiful experience, a 3-day experience where you get your story out. And although I had been podcasting for a while, and although the stories were coming out, what really stood out for me was when they go even deeper into the why, even deeper into the reasons why you're doing it. And for me, I realized when I did my speech, because they ask you to do a disruptive speech of 6 minutes and you get recorded and you have to think about that. And so I had 3 days to really go deeper. And that's the beauty about speaking in, an audience. And I said, go really deep into your stories, and the frameworks that they gave you were these frameworks, and it had to be disruptive and it had to be this. And so the disruptive thing that came up was, for me, was who is raising your kids, right? That's a disruptive thing for me, that I was like, okay, where does that come from? And when I started to write my story out, it really came from my own experience, because when I look at my daughters, I want to protect them. I want to protect them from absolutely everything, right? So, of course, we can't do that, but what's in our control? And one of those things for me that came up was, well, when I was younger, I obviously, as a 4-year-old, I lost a lot of people in my life. I lost my relatives because we moved countries. And my mum then passed away 9 months later. So I lost the mum by the age of 5, right? So a lot of change happened for me as a 5-year-old. And then my dad went into full survival mode, right? He had to just step up and just start working. They had plans. Obviously, the plans didn't go to plan, right? Because they had plans to study, to learn English, to go into their. They were both professionals. My dad was a general manager. He had started from HR. He went to HR executive general manager. So he was quite well off in El Salvador. My mum was an accountant, by trade. She did her degree, and actually she moved to Australia just as she finished her degree. She had just graduated, right? So she had worked so hard to get there. And yes, in El Salvador, we had nannies, right? She went to work when I was 3 months old. And that's what happens in the US as well, right? You have 3 months with the baby, then you go straight into work. And so I didn't have her even when she was alive. I had nannies that looked after me. So there was no presence of my own family, right? And so when my dad then went into just work mode and all that sort of stuff, he then met someone else who became my stepmom. And then this stepmom was with me from the age of 5 to 12 years old. And then at 12, my dad left her for another woman. So a lot of instability, right? I went from one thing to another. When I finally started to love my stepmom when I was 12, because it took me a long time to love her. And then when I finally did, my dad then cheated on her to be with someone else. And then it was just simple, like, yep, she's, And so then she left, and I had to start to grieve for her. I was 12 years old, so I spent a lot of my time alone. No one else around me. I had to figure it out all on my own, going to school. I wasn't great at academics either. But no one was there, right, for me. And so I struggled. I struggled mentally, depression. I had a lot going on that I had to navigate myself. My dad sort of understood that. My dad, I remember when I was 15 years old, he said to me, you need to go see someone. I know you need to see someone. And I'm like, no, Dad, I'm fine. I get it. I was sort of almost trying to be okay, hold it all together. I get it. You went through really hard stuff. Like, it was always like I was always trying to protect him as well, which also can be a lot to carry, because I was trying to protect him, going, I know you've been through a lot, and I know that this was given to you. It's not something that you chose, and you had to just do the best that you could, and you have done all the best that you could. So I need to be okay. I need to be okay with that. And I know that, I've got to step up, and that's just what was given to me, and I need to step up and start paying bills at home and start working hard. And I started working when I was 14 years old, all that sort of stuff. I just became this responsible girl. I grew up way too quickly. I was paying bills when my friends didn't have to worry about all that sort of stuff. And so that became a lot to carry. And so when I started to go to counseling, eventually when I was 21 years old, I started to realize and start to unpack everything that actually had happened to me. And I was really lucky that in my 20s, I did the work. I did a lot of the work. going to psychologists, to counseling, to really get to a point where I am now, but I know how hard that was. And so for my girls, I think the world is completely different now. We've got social media, we've got this, we've got, they're comparing themselves on social media. I didn't have that. I don't know what I would have been like, what my life would have been like if we had social media and if I started to compare myself with all these other, I was already comparing myself to my closest friends, right? Why do they have it easy? And I remember feeling that. It was like, why do my friends have it so easy? And I'd compare myself and go home to my dad, they don't have to worry about this. And now here I am. And that's what brought negativity to the situation. I can't even imagine then seeing social media and then comparing myself to 10 other, 1,000 people that come up on my news feed. So the world has changed. And so that is my purpose. I want to be present for my girls when they're going through their teenager ages and they're going through their health issues that we know is skyrocketing, right? And
don't even get me started on that.
Yeah. And so there's so much that's happening. And that was the speech that I sort of crafted. And because in the speech, it also goes into the evidence. You have to find the evidence. And even then I delved into more about the mental health issues that is happening and then the evidence that's going through there. And it's like, wow, really the only way is by creating our own business, our own time. And in 10 years, if we just keep showing up, I will be like those women that have built their businesses and now can choose where and how and when to spend time with their families and just be present with them and say how much you're there for them.
Just going back to when you were 21 years old and you started to finally unpack a few things, and I actually want to go a bit further back after that. What were some of the things that you unpacked? Evelyn's story of migration, loss, and finding her calling, well, it's just the beginning. We've barely scratched the surface of how she's building an empire while navigating the beautiful chaos of motherhood, the challenges of dual passions, and the profound lessons that shaped her entrepreneurial spirit. But here's where it gets, I think, really interesting, because wait until you hear how a relation built on aligned values became the foundation for everything she's creating, and the unexpected ways her childhood experiences are now fueling her mission to transform lives. Don't go anywhere. Part 2 is coming, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. What happens next on Leading Our Own Way? Come back for part 2 with Evelyn, and keep leading your own way. Please give us a subscribe, and we'll see you then. Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.